Hello, hello. This is Brian Engler from SCB Housing. This is the second info session for the Miscela Affordable Housing Lottery. We have people unfamiliar with YouTube or watching live streams. The way you can participate in this info session is by typing questions in on the right-hand side, where I'm going to type right now. You'll see, hello, this is Brian. Ask questions here. We also have Dave Cashman from the SCB Housing team who will be answering the questions that are put on the right-hand side, and I can answer some of the questions too as we go through this. There's also a conference line that nobody's on right now, and if you're watching this, I don't know why you'd go to the conference line other than to, yeah, I mean, you can certainly ask questions over the phone as well. And if you do, I shouldn't say I don't know why you wouldn't use a conference line, because if you have questions, you can call in and we can get certified languages on the line if we need any translation services. So the phone number for the conference line, which I just had up, is 425-436-6200, and the code is 862627. I'll write that down in a minute here though too. Conference line. 436-6200. Code 862627. Okay. Right now there's only 3 people here on the info session. So this is a second info session. We had a much bigger turnout for that. Any of those 3 people, if you have any questions before I start launching into things that you want some immediate answers, please type them in. Or again, you can call the conference line, which is right here at the bottom of the screen, 426-436-6200. The code is 862627. But again, you can just type the questions in on the right-hand side. It's 6:03, so we'll get this information started. Again, this is the information session for Miscela Assembly Row in Somerville for the affordable units that are being offered there for 50% and 80% of area median income applicants. We'll go through this info session, go through kind of the very general process of how to apply and what that's going to look like from start to finish. And then we can drill down a little bit in more detail about the online application or the lottery application, which is the current phase of the project that we're in right now. I do want to start this just by, again, putting this notice up that has details for non-English speaking people. All the materials can be downloaded at this link right here, including for English speakers. That's where the information packet and the lottery application is available. Additionally, if you email miscela@scbhousing.com, you'll be given the direct link to the online application, and you can complete that there. And if you have any questions, you can call us here at that phone number, and somebody will be able to get you some translation services. And then I've also provided Somerville their contact information here, as that can be helpful for speakers of Spanish, Portuguese, Creole, and uh, for Nepali speakers as well. Okay, three whole people at this info session. That do not take that as an indication of the interest right now in this opportunity, as we have received at this moment 1,050 lottery applications to date. So the application period has been open for 1 week, and we've received over 1,000 lottery applications in the first week. The application period will be going until September 29th, so about 22 more days. Um, my name, again, is Brian Engler, SEB Housing. We're the affordable housing consultants that were hired by the owner of the building to help with this process. Uh, this company, our company is involved in dozens and dozens of affordable housing lotteries a year, and we're involved with almost a few hundred properties in Massachusetts to help them maintain their compliance with the various affordable housing rules and regulations. So we are very familiar with this process. We've worked in Somerville before. We help over at Greystar, which is another property in Assembly Row that has affordable units. We might have somebody on the line right now. Is there anybody on the conference line right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm in offer.
All right, that's fine. I just heard that the hold music stopped, so I was just happy to hear that the music was no longer playing. So it's good that you're on the conference line. So, well, for this info session, again, all the materials and everything we're going over is going to be provided in greater detail on our website. Uh, which is a link that I already brought, which is at www.sebhousing.com. You'll see Miscela prominently listed on there. But the purpose of these info sessions is really uh, for to be more interactive. So if people have questions, they can have them answered rather than just read the materials themselves. But with that in mind, I'll go through some of these. I'll go through the process very generally. But these information sessions tend to work better when they're really more questions and answer sessions. So again, if anybody has a very specific question, please type it into the YouTube link, or just just let me know that you have a question on the conference line. I see one question here. The application that was on the JOT website. Yes, that is the online. So yep, that is the online application, online lottery application. I can put that. I can actually put that link right in the YouTube video here. It's on the JotForm website. You click on that link, and you'll go directly to the online lottery application. So let's talk about the units at first. So at this brand new development, Miscela's a 500 unit development in Assembly Row. 31 of the 500 units will be affordable. Jennifer is asking, is there another application we need to complete? No, there is not. Jennifer, you just need to complete the online lottery application. So when you complete the online lottery application, you'll be getting a response generally within about a week. We're still going through that first wave. Like I said, we've had 1,000 applications so far, but in the next few days, the first people who applied will be getting the results back. We have already notified some households who are missing information or who might have been over income or under income of those results, but we haven't sent out the initial approval notices to any households at this time. So going back to the property itself, there's 31 total affordable units. There are 16 units set at 50% of area median income, and there's 15 units set at 80% of area median income. In the info packet you can find on our website, you can see the full table of all the various units that are available. In applying for this, you don't specify if you want a 50% or an 80% area median income unit. That's determined by what your household's income is and what income tier you fit into. So let me just go back though to continue to talk about the property itself. The affordable units there are the exact same units as the market rate units. The rents are just less. and households that get to lease these units will be households who have incomes below the maximum allowed threshold for those units. So again, same units as the market rate units that are renting for thousands and thousands of dollars more. Um, the property is right in Assembly Row. The residences have stainless steel appliances, quartz countertops, modern finish packages. They have an in-unit washer and dryer. The property itself has various amenities, which are all included in the rent. You don't have to pay for those separately. There's no extra charge to use those. It's Sky Lounge. There's an open air terrace with a pool with grilling stations. There's a gym. There's a spin room. There's 2 lounges. All those are available to everybody that's living in the affordable units and the market rate units. So they're all common amenities. Parking is not included with the affordable unit. So if you have a car, you'll be given the opportunity to lease a spot for an extra $75 a month. That's a greatly reduced rate from what the market rate tenants have to pay. But that $75 a month is an additional fee that you'll need to pay for every parking spot. We have a question here: wheelchair accessibility and how far from public transportation, especially the bus. Um, the I can look up how close the closest. I mean, well, in Assembly Row, there are bus stops for for people without a car. So the I would have to look up, and maybe Dave Cashman, who's also on the line, he can look up what the closest bus station is to Miscela. But the question on wheelchair accessibility is a good one. There are um, there are 3 units here that do have disabled accessible features. Um, there's 1 studio unit that's available to households at 50% area median income. Um, that means that as a 1-person household, you can't make more than $47,000 a year. The income limit goes up. 2-person household, $53,700 a year. 3-person, $60,400 a year. That's a 50% area median income maximum income limit. So there's a studio and a 1-bedroom that are fully accessible. They have roll-in showers. They have the lower countertops. They have the wider doorways. So they are fully accessible to people in wheelchairs. There's also a 2-bedroom fully accessible affordable unit that's at 80% of area median income. So to qualify for the 80% unit, you have to have income that's in a slightly higher income bracket. And those, again, those are in the info packet. All that information's here. It's on page 19 of the info packet, the disabled accessible unit information. And you can see what the income tiers are here. Maybe it can't, they don't read so well with my webcam, but for the income limits for 1-person household for a 2-bedroom unit, I'm sorry, um, I'll get back to that in a minute, but for a 2-person household living in a 2-bedroom unit, they really have to make between $53,700 and $80,850. And the reason I took a beat there is because at this property, and I'll go into the qualifications in a minute, but at this property, you have to have as many household members as there are bedrooms in the unit. Meaning, if you're just a 1-person household and you don't have any medical need for a 2nd bedroom, you do not qualify for a 2-bedroom unit. There's too many people that are in this lottery. There's too many people that need too many households who need 2 bedrooms. That as a 1-person household, you would not qualify for the 2-bedroom units, just as a 2-person household does not qualify for 3-bedroom units, with the one caveat that if there is a medical need for an extra bedroom, and you would need to be able to verify that later on in the process, you could qualify. But in general, the threshold is you have to have as many household members as there are numbers of bedrooms in the units that you're applying for.
So on that,
Yep.
can I ask a quick question? What about a 1-person household that you might qualify for a studio or a 1-bedroom? How would the process work on that? Would we be both selected for like a 1-bedroom or a studio? What would be
Yep. So let's talk about the process. So in your on your application, you would apply. You could check off both studio and one bedroom unit. And on the lottery application, you could even put two bedroom unit if you want, but you're just not going to be entered into that lottery. So there's no harm in checking off that extra bedroom size. Um, and then when the time comes, you'll be put on every waiting list for the unit sizes you qualify for. So in theory, if there's a three-person household who's willing to live in a one-bedroom unit and they checked off that they wanted a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, and a three-bedroom unit, um, they would be ultimately, if they qualify for, let's say they qualify for the 80% AMI units, after the lottery, they would be on the waiting list for the one bedroom, the two bedroom, they'd be on the one bedroom waiting list for 80% AMI units, the two bedroom waiting list for 80% AMI units, and the three bedroom waiting list for 80% AMI units. And in your case, you're saying you're a one person household. You can apply both for the studio and a one bedroom unit. And depending on the income tier you qualify for, you'll be both on a one bedroom waiting list and a studio waiting list.
Thank you.
You got it. Um, so, um, the way this process works very generally is, and I'll talk about the online application and the lottery in more detail in a couple minutes. But in general, you complete the lottery application. We recommend completing the online form. It's very easy and direct, and you don't have to send anything in other than once you complete the form, it goes straight into it comes straight to us. So you can complete the online application. You can download the application from our website, again, www.sebhousing.com. You can email us at miscela@sebhousing.com. That's MISCELA at sebhousing.com. And we'll send you a PDF, or we'll email you a PDF of the application, and you can request us to mail it to you. And you can complete that and mail it in or drop it off at our offices. All those details are on the cover page of the application. But the point is, you complete the lottery application, you submit it to us, SCB Housing. We review that to make sure that you qualify based on the various standards in the program, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Ultimately, you are given an initial notice if you're eligible that we received your application and that you're eligible for the lottery, and you'll be getting a second notice from us shortly. That second notice, you'll get your application number for the lottery. That application number is different than the reference number you got when you completed the JOT form, because uh, when any applicant who completes a JOT form gets a reference number that starts like with SEB dash and then there's 6 digits. The application number will be a number that is A dot digit 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 digit. There's 4 digits after the A. And the reason we have application numbers is it doesn't mean anything at all. There's no ranking associated with it or anything. If you're the 790th person to be found eligible for the lottery, your application number will just be A.790. And the order that you completed your application doesn't matter. That's the whole point of the lottery. So when the time comes on the lottery, and the lottery date is, let me look this up again. I just want to be sure. But so everybody has to get their lottery application in by September 29th. We screen everything, get everybody their notices to let them know that they're eligible or ineligible. And then the lottery itself is on October 19th. The night of the lottery, we'll be doing drawings from a bingo wheel on YouTube, and we'll send everybody the link who's in the lottery. And we are putting in the application numbers of everybody who qualifies for each drawing. So, for example, in the first drawing we do for the studio 50% AMI units, if there are uh, 340 people in that drawing, we're putting 340 application numbers into the bingo wheel and spinning that bingo wheel round and around and around and pulling each and every single number out of that bingo wheel. So when we're calling the names, or when we're calling the households, we're just calling A, 97, and A 1221, and A 822. Just so to keep it anonymous. That's the whole point of the application number. And in this example that I'm giving, all 340 application numbers get pulled out of the bingo wheel, and that establishes the waiting list for the studio 50% units in that drawing. So there'll be 340 people on that waiting list for those studio units. Now, it's hopefully this is clear to you that just because you're entered into the lottery and just because your application number is pulled doesn't mean that you've won anything, because in that example that I'm given for studio 50% AMI units, there's only two of those units in the entire development, and there'll be 300 in this example. There's 340 people on that waiting list. So clearly, the majority of people will not be getting one of those units. So this entire process from submitting a lottery application, um, complete filling out all your income and asset documentation and submitting it to us, and being given an application number and being entered into the lottery and having your number drawn and being sent the waiting list, all of that is just to establish the waiting lists for all the different unit types that are available at the property. Um, there's 11 separate waiting lists at this property, because there's a waiting list for the studio 50% units, 50% AMI units, whose rent is where do I have those? Whose rent is $1,002. There's uh, a waiting list for the 8 one-bedroom 50% AMI units, whose rents are $1,034 to $1,054. There's a waiting list for the 3 two-bedroom 50% AMI units, whose rent is $1,223 to $1,245. All these waiting lists are also in the info packet on page 13. So you can see all the various waiting lists. So we do this whole entire lottery. It takes a couple hours because there's thousands of application numbers that are in it to establish these waiting lists. And then we send out the waiting list to every person in the lottery so they can see where they are. Now, most people, when they get the waiting list, because this lottery is so big, they're going to look and they're going to say, oh, that's too bad. I'm 257th position on one waiting list, and I'm 39th on another waiting list. Households with positions that low won't be asked to move forward in the process. The lottery is drawn, the waiting lists are established, and then we contact the very top households on each waiting list to move forward in the next step in the process, which is the program certification step. So step one in all this is the lottery application and to get on the waiting list. Step two is the Somerville Affordable Housing Certification. That is where households need to submit all the income, assets, tax documentation, and any other claims that they made in their lottery application, and they submit it to us, to SEB Housing, so we can verify that they are eligible for the affordable housing program. That they, that everything that they claimed in their application is accurate. And I'll go back to the eligibility after I talk about this general overview. But step two in the process is getting through this program certification, which is again to verify all the claims made in the lottery application by providing all the supporting documentation, such as uh, 3 months of pay stubs, bank statements, 2 years of tax returns. If you receive Social Security statements, you have to be able to provide that. If you have a Section 8 voucher, you have to provide that. If you receive funds from your pension, you have to provide that. You don't have to get bogged down right now at this point in the process, because nobody has to submit any documentation right now. Um, when we notify you that you're eligible for the lottery, you get a notice from us that also has a guide attached, which goes over all the documentation that will be required after the lottery to households who are asked to move forward. So it is very important that households don't, uh, you know, worry about gathering all the income and asset documentation before they submit the lottery application. Because again, there is no documentation other than the lottery application that is required at this time. But households should keep in mind that after they're notified from us that they are in the lottery, read all the information we give you, because that will go over all the documentation that you should gather, so that if after the lottery you have a high enough position on one of these waiting lists that we ask you to move forward right after the lottery, and that invitation will be coming from us, it'll be coming from SCB Housing, that you have all the income and asset and tax documentation ready to go, so that when you submit, your application is complete as possible. Now, we don't expect anybody's application to be 100% complete at the first submission, and the city has been very specific in the guidelines that people get, 3 additional submissions to submit any missing documentation. So households, after the lottery, who are asked to be moved forward, who are invited forward, to complete the program certification process, which again is step 2, they, will be sent an invitation. We'll say, congratulations, here's the certification packet. You need to complete it along with all your income, asset, tax documentation, and get it back to us, in, 5 days. And when you submit all that information, we'll review it within a couple days. And on that first submission, there's a 99% chance that you're going to be missing something. And we'll send a notice out that says, your application's incomplete. This is your first incomplete notice. And applicants get 3 incomplete notices. They get 3 chances to try to submit everything before the process stops for them. Because eventually, we have to move forward. If an applicant is unable to gather things or unwilling to move forward in the process, we have to, disqualify them from further review so that we can get the next household, in line for that unit. But so taking a step back here. Step 1 is a lottery application, getting on these waiting lists. Step 2 is very, very top households on waiting lists will be invited to move forward, to complete the program certification with SCB Housing. Households that are program certified will be given a notice. It's called a proceed, letter from us to them that says, congratulations, you can now move forward and contact, the leasing office, to complete a rental application. Step 3 in this process for households who are found program certified is to then contact Greystar, who's the management company, they're the leasing office, to then, see the unit, take a tour of the building, complete a rental application, and that's where credit score comes in. That's where criminal review is done. That's where tenant history is accounted for. So that's what like if you just go on the market and try to rent an apartment anywhere, that's the rental application that you complete. So that's really the last step in the process. So before you even get to a rental application, you have to, get through the lottery application, have a high position on the waiting list, get invited, to move forward from us, qualify through the program certification, and then you get to complete the rental application. And unfortunately, some households will get that far and they might not have good credit. They might have something that comes up on a criminal record, and they might be disqualified from Greystar at that time. If you have any questions about your credit or any questions about the rental application portion, which again is step 3, that's the final step, I'd encourage you to email or contact, Greystar. And their email address is miscela@greystar.com. That's Miscela at greystar.com. You can, if you have questions about your credit, if your credit's sufficient, or any questions again about the rental application, you will you should contact Greystar because they're a separate entity from us and they're doing that final screening. Are there, I see that there's a bunch of questions being, listed, in the, off to the right here. Do we still have anybody on the conference line? Because I can read some of these questions if they want me to go through them.
Yes, I actually had a question too. Assuming that we are selected, we're going through the process, we have all our paperwork, what is the fastest day that we could go in, assuming that we do everything on time? Like, what is the best case scenario?
Of moving into these units?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're lucky enough to, be selected and be drawn first out of 400 or 1,500 people in this lottery and be at the top of the list and be invited to move forward and complete all the income and asset documentation, get certified by us for the program, contact Graystar, get rental approved. Um, Probably the earliest that you'd be able to reserve a unit would be, I'd say, mid-November. And if you wanted to move in right away, if you didn't need to give 30 days notice to your current landlord or anything, then you could in theory be in these units by the end of November or sometime in December. I think the majority of these units probably will, just because it generally takes people weeks to submit income and asset and tax documentation, because it generally takes 2 or 3 submissions to get everything in. So I think the realistic best case scenario for households is that they're going to be moving in sometime at the end of the year, or early 2022.
Makes sense. So let's say in the case that we need to like put 30 days notice that we can reserve the unit for like, let's say a month out. Is that
Correct.
an option?
Correct. Once you get through all the steps and you get approved for a unit and you reserve it, you'll be able to hold that unit for 30 days before moving into it.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Okay. Very good. So that's kind of the general overview, all right, of from how to get from the lottery application to the final step. And again, questions about the credit, anything, any questions households have about the rental application process, which is the third step in this process. Unfortunately, for 99.9% of people that apply, they're never going to even get to the. I don't want to say never, but in this initial lease up of the property, that's not going to come up, because we're going to end up with something like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 people in this lottery, and there's only 31 units. So the majority of people, the large majority of people, are not going to get to the rental application portion. But there are questions. It's the point of these info sessions, or the point of having knowledgeable teams in places so you can get questions to your answers. And so again, I'd encourage you to call Graystar at Miscela. um, I gave you the email address. Again, it's Miscela at sebhousing.com. And let's see, Graystar should be able to find Miscela's sorry for the delay here. I just don't have it. Yeah, so you could call 617-718-5050 to contact Graystar about that. So let's go back to the beginning, though. Let's talk about the lottery application itself. And so you complete a lottery application. You complete it online. You complete it by PDF. You mail it to us. You scan it. All the directions are on the cover page. And again, if you do it online through the jot form, you just answer all the questions and hit submit, and we'll get that. We look at it to see if your household is eligible for the unit. And there's a couple things that we look at. First and foremost, on your lottery application, you have to put every person that is going to be living in the unit. Everybody that's going to occupy the unit, and you have to put all of the income, the total household income for people that are going to be occupying the unit. It's just not your income; it's a total household income. So if you have a job where you make $25,000 a year and you're going to be living with somebody who has a job where they make $15,000 a year, the total household income is $40,000 for that household. Um, so you complete all the information in there, you put all the household members, and then you answer all the questions on income and assets and everything else. You also have to disclose, or you want to disclose, if you live or work in Somerville. There is a preference for households who live or work in Somerville. And also, the city has given a preference for anybody who's currently on a waiting list for a Section 8 voucher, or is on the Somerville's Housing Authority's waiting list for an affordable unit. So all those questions are asked in the lottery application, and they all impact either a household's eligibility or a household's priority in this lottery. Because through the lottery process, there are different drawings for each unit type, in that households who qualify are households who are already on a waiting list for Section 8. They're trying to get a Section 8 voucher. That means they do not have a voucher. If you currently have a voucher, you do not qualify as being on the Section 8 housing waiting list because you already have it. But if you are on one of those waiting lists, you want to mark on your lottery application that you are on one of those waiting lists. And then also there's a question on the second priority for households is for households who live or work in Somerville. And again, the reason those are important is because every household who's currently on a waiting list will get I'm sorry, a waiting list for a voucher, or is on the Somerville Housing Authority's waiting list. Those households will get priority over every other household that's in the lottery. The city has made a very concerted effort to prioritize those households. They consider those to be households who are really in exceptional need of this housing because they have been on these waiting lists waiting for a voucher, in some case for years. And so those households have priority over people that aren't on those voucher waiting lists. And then again, there's the next priorities for households who live or work in Somerville. And then the third priority is for households who don't meet either of those two qualifications. Are there any questions on that right now? Okay, so we look at your lottery application. We do a screening. You have to have a household income that's within certain thresholds in order to qualify for a 50% unit. And I'll go over those parameters in a minute. What those income limits are, and there's both a minimum and a maximum income limit. Um, Households, as I mentioned before, have to have at least one person per bedroom. That means that a one-person household, if they only apply for a two-bedroom unit and they don't have a medical need for a two-bedroom unit, uh, they won't be eligible for the lottery. They won't be put on any waiting list. Now, similarly, if that one-person household applies for a studio, one-bedroom, and a two-bedroom unit, they'll just be put on the studio and one-bedroom waiting list. They won't be on a two-bedroom waiting list because households need to have at least one person per bedroom, unless they have a medical need for a larger unit, which there is a place on the application to disclose that. Households can't have more than $250,000 in assets, and those are non-retirement assets. So households can actually have a lot of money in a 401k or some other retirement savings account, um, but if they have less than 250,000 in all non-retirement assets, meaning checking account, savings account, cash, in Venmo, in CDs, stocks and bonds, they have less than $250,000, they're eligible. If they have more than that, they're not eligible. That's a pretty high asset limit, but some rental properties don't even have an asset limit. Households cannot own a home upon certification. Now, if you currently own a home, you can still apply for the lottery. You can still be entered into the lottery. But if and when you are asked to move forward into step two, which is a program certification, if you still own a home at that point, you would be disqualified. So, because households cannot own a home at that certification point in the process. So maybe a household currently has a house and they're about to sell it. It's under agreement. They have a buyer lined up. It's going to be sold in the next 30 days or 60 days. They can still apply. And then, if they have a buyer who's going to be closing on that in 3 weeks from now, when the time comes for us to certify that household a month from now, they'll be able to show that that house is sold and they're still eligible. But households cannot own a home. Unrelated and unmarried household members applying together, they can apply together. We won't know but they will need to provide verification that they currently live together at the time of program certification. So, and if they don't, then they also won't be eligible. So let's say there's a person who wants to apply for a two-bedroom unit with one of their friends. They said this would be great. to be able to live in Miscela for a 2 bedroom unit. Uh, the two of us combined, our household incomes don't meet, don't aren't over the income limit, and both of us independently currently live with our parents. Um, they'd be entered into the lottery. Let's just say it's somebody's named Joe and somebody's named Jane, and Joe and Jane don't currently live together. They just aspire to live together. Well, they'll be entered into the lottery, but when the time comes for us to certify that household, and we see that they don't currently live together, they both live independently, separately, then that household would be disqualified. That's more of a step two certification that happens, but that's just important to know so that when you are completing your lottery application, it needs to be with household. It's either now. Again, let me read that again because it's unrelated and unmarried household members applying together. Uh, will need to provide verification that they currently live together at the time of program certification. So that doesn't apply to if you are related. If you and your sister want to move in, say, then that would be allowed. But it's just unrelated, unmarried people that need to currently live together. And then the final thing is all heads of household cannot be full-time students. A full-time student uh, who is a head of household is only eligible if they're a co-head of household with someone who is not a full-time student and who they currently live with and will live with at Miscela. So, unfortunately, a single mom who's a full-time student, um, who has one child, this is not, they would not be eligible. Or like a couple who currently lives together and they're both getting their PhDs, um, they would not be eligible for this because they're full-time students. This is affordable housing that the city is, designated. They don't want it to be kind of student housing. It's for people who really kind of are in the workforce, are on fixed income, have a Section 8 voucher, but aren't full-time students. This isn't a place for them to live while they're going through school as the head of a household or as a co-head of a household who also is a full-time student. Um, so that is what we're looking for in the lottery application. The main thing here, that the main screening, the one of the most important thing is the income eligibility portion of this. Because that was the first thing that I mentioned, that households really have to have income that's um, that's within certain brackets in order to qualify for either the 50% units or the 80% units. So I'll speak on that. Um, and when households again are completing the lottery application, I should note households should be putting in the income that they will be making or projected to make over the next 12 months. It's not what they made over the previous 12 months, it's what they're going to make over the next 12 months. Um, so what that means is there could be a household who's currently not employed. They're a seasonal worker, and for 6 months of the year, they make $10,000 a month, and 6 months of the year they make nothing. Just in this example, that household right now who's earning nothing shouldn't put that they make $0 because over the next 12 months they're likely to make $60,000 if they make $10,000 a month, which would be great for them. And they're a seasonal worker because for 6 months they make $10,000, and then for 6 other months they make $0. So similarly, that household wouldn't put a household who might make this month, might be making, this might be the busiest time of year for them. Like sometimes we get applications from accountants, around tax season, and they're working overtime and everything else. But if for the next 12 months they have a general grasp and they say, well, I might be making $1,000 a week right now, which comes out of $52,000 a year. But really, this is the busiest time of year. And in general, I've, over the past 3 years, I've only made $40,000 a year. That household's income is going to be $40,000 for wages. So just keep that in mind, that the income that is put in this application is what your total household income should be for the next 12 months. We look at that application, we look at your income, we total it up, and we see if it's within the brackets for this program. Now, for the 50% units, and I've gone over this before, there's an income limit over which, if a household makes more than that, they're not eligible for the 50% AMI units. Um, those the income starts at $47,000 for one person household. It goes all the way up to an 8-person household at $88,600. So a 3-person household, 50% income limit, $60,400. The 6-person household, it's $77,850. Households who are over that income limit are not eligible for 50% AMI units. They might be eligible for the 80% units, but not the 50% units. But similarly, this is not Section 8 housing. This is not subsidized housing. Households, unless they already have a Section 8 voucher, need to be able to afford this rent on the strength of their own income. And so, with that in mind, there is also a minimum income threshold for this program. And for the 50% units, if there's a household who's applying for a studio unit, because that rent is it's about $1,000 a month. It's $1,002 up to $1,021, but uh, a household applying for a studio unit has to make at least $28,200 a month. They have to basically be able to pay less than half of their monthly income towards rent to qualify. The city says anybody who is going to be paying more than that, this housing's too expensive for them. It's not sustainable. So this program isn't for them. So a household that doesn't make $28,200 on their own will get a notice from us that they're under income for the program. Now, keep in mind that's for households that don't already have a Section 8 voucher. Households that already have a Section 8 voucher, um, there is not that minimum income threshold for a studio or one-bedroom unit because they have a subsidy that helps support their rent payments. But households that don't have a voucher, who are going to be paying these rents out of their own wages, out of their own household income, there is this minimum income threshold. So um, that's also in all the marketing materials, those minimum thresholds. So when we're doing the screening for the lottery applications, we're looking to see if households have enough income to pay for the rent and also don't make too much that they're over the program maximum income limits. So again, a one-person household applying for like a one-bedroom unit, they have to make more than $30,192 a year to qualify for that one-bedroom unit at 50% AMI. If they're a one-person household, though, they can't make more than $47,000 a year because they'll be over the 50% AMI income limit. So there are these brackets in which people have to fit from an income standpoint. Now, if a household makes over those 50% AMI income limits, which again I said are 47,000 for one person, 53,700 for two people, 60,400 for three people, 67,100 for four people. Households are over those income brackets, they might be eligible for an 80% AMI unit because those income limits are much higher. For an 80% unit, which also has higher rents, the income limit for one person household is $70,750. Um, so a one person household, if they're going to qualify for a 80% unit, they have to make above that 50% income threshold, but below the 80%. So the 50% is $47,000 a year. The 80% is $70,750. So if their income is between those two, they can be eligible for the 80% program, and they can be eligible for a studio or one-bedroom unit. Similarly, a two-person household has to make, for the 80% units, has to make above $53,700 and below $80,850. And so we look at your lottery application and we look at what your household income is and your household size, and we then determine based on these predetermined income limits if your household qualifies for the program, and if they do, if they qualify for a 50% unit or an 80% unit. It's another important thing to understand is that households are not going to be on multiple 50% and 80% waiting lists. You either qualify for the 50% program or you qualify for the 80% program. And again, you're not checking off anything in the lottery application to indicate one way or the other which you prefer. I mean, everybody would prefer to pay the lower rent units, but those lower rents are directly tied to an income bracket that is lower as well. Are there any questions about that? Um, so we do the income screening to make sure your household's eligible within those brackets. We're looking that we make sure that households don't have more than or have at least one person per bedroom. There's that asset review. There's the home ownership review and everything else. And if your household's eligible, you get a notice from us that you are eligible for the lottery, and then shortly after you'll get a lottery application, and we'll continue to be in touch with you throughout the process. Households for the lottery who are eligible, it's just going to be done online. We'll send a link that you can watch Dave and I over the course of 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, however long it takes to pull all the application numbers out and establish all the waiting lists for all the various unit types. And then there's 31 affordable units, so there's be 31 households who get an invitation after all that to move forward in the process. Do we have anybody else? Do we have any other questions right now? I've been talking for about 52 straight minutes. Is there anybody else on the line that has a question? Guess not. Is there anybody else who has a question for Dave? Are immigrants who do not yet have their green cards eligible for this program? Yeah, Mike, they are. They are. You don't have to have a green card to be eligible. So it's a good question. But there's various I mean, so if you live, work here, you can prove that you have the income, and it's just an income and asset verification, and you'll have to either have shown that you've paid taxes or shown when you immigrated here. So if you immigrated here in the past couple months and you haven't yet paid taxes, then we need to show proof of when you first came to this country. But green card status does not impact eligibility for the program. And again, there's a couple questions. There's no documents that have to be submitted with the lottery application other than the lottery application. Let's see, any other questions? There's only a couple more people. There's only a couple of people here, so trying to think of other important things. Unborn children. This is very unique to the city of Somerville, but if you're currently pregnant, the due date of your child actually has to be before January 18th, 2022 for them to be counted as part of your household. You could have a due date of late February. Maybe let's say, you are a single mom and you have a due date in February. For the purposes of the program, you can only put yourself as a one-person household, even though you obviously know you're pregnant and you have a due date that's set. You would not be in your third trimester at the time of lottery, and so that is the determining factor for the city of Somerville's program. If you are currently going through a divorce or separation, you can apply like as if you were fully separated and divorced from your spouse. But at the time of program certification, that second step, you would have to be fully divorced. You can't be going through the process and qualify like a single head of household. So if you are currently going through divorce or separation, and you are not, and you apply as a single, let's say you apply as a single person, because you hope to be divorced soon. But in a month, if you're asked to move forward in completing income and asset documents and you are not fully divorced, you would be ineligible because you'd be considered to still be married and your spouse wasn't on your lottery application, and therefore your lottery application was not consistent, and so you would be, ineligible. Um, so if there's any questions on divorce separation, please let us know. What else do we have here? Okay, Mike, thanks for checking in. I see you're checking out. So the important dates here are getting your lottery application in. September 29th is the deadline. The lottery will be held on October 19th. Basically, within a week of that, the deadline is going to be to the top 31 households to complete the program certification, and then we'll go from there. These are affordable units in perpetuity. The rent does increase a little bit year over year, and there are every year households have to continue to be found eligible for the program. The good news is that the income limit once you move in is slightly higher for your household. So you have to be under a certain threshold in order to qualify for the program and to move in, but they've built in a little bit of a buffer so that if you have a slight increase in income over the first or second year, you'll still be eligible for the units. That's important to keep in mind. We have those higher income limits also in the info packet. They're on page 17. But just by way of example, let's say you apply for an affordable unit right now, and the income limit for the 50% AMI program for one person household is $47,000. Let's say you make $46,000 right now. You qualify for a one bedroom unit and you move in, and next year you get a raise and you're making $50,000 a year, $52,000, which congratulations on the raise. That's great. You do actually get to stay in the unit because when you renew, your household limit, the income limit's actually higher than it was when you first had to move in. So for that one person household living in that unit, that income limit's actually $65,800. It's not $47,000 again. So you do have a little bit of a buffer, and you can see those higher income limits again on page 17 of the info packet. Just again, like a three-person household qualifying, let's say for the 80% program, the income limit for a three-person household for the 80% program is $90,950. At year two, when they go to renew, they want to stay in the unit, they'd be able to make up to $127,330. But they do have to go through every household living in every affordable unit in Somerville. Somerville is very good, very diligent about going through that recertification process and making sure every tenant in every one of these units completes the recertification process every year before they're allowed to renew their lease. So if you're lucky enough to get one of these units, you'll need to be prepared to have income and asset and tax documentation to submit prior to renewing your lease any year. We're closing in on the 1 hour mark here. Are there any other questions? We only have a couple people in the room at this point, so feel free to chime in or let me know. Otherwise, I'll just sit here looking goofy for a little bit. Or even if you don't chime in, I'm going to just sit here looking goofy because that's the way it's going to be, whether the question's being asked or not. Okay, no other questions. All right. Well, again, the jot form, the lottery, the application, I'll put it again here. Online application can be found here. It's also earlier in the text thread, but it's right there. very convenient to complete it online, and you should be hearing from us, within a couple days after completing it. We're going to be really processing those applications or getting notices out to the eligible households. But that's about it. Complete the lottery application. No income documentation required. Get that done. That's really the most important thing. And if you have any questions at all in the notice that you get from us, our contact information will be in the notice, and will always be available for you to reach out to us. So, again, I can't emphasize enough. Get the lottery application in. You will be contacted by us. If we have your email address, you will get an email address from us. If you have any questions at all, reply, or just read the notice, reply to the email. The All of our contact information will be in that notice. And we pride ourselves on being very available to answer any questions that you have. Last but not least, I'll just hold up this form one last time for the non-English speakers, so that they know how to contact us with any questions at all. It's all about this, the website and our email, and for phone number for language assistance is right here. And then also Somerville Somerville is great about providing assistance too, but you don't need to contact them. You can contact us directly. We have language assistance capabilities. So thank you, everybody. Have a great evening and best of luck with your lottery application.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it. Still a couple people here. Maybe they went to get something to eat. I think everybody's checked out. Dave, you still there? Okay, we're good. If you have any other questions, anything else, email us, Miscela at scbhousing.com. That's MISCELA at scbhousing.com. Or if you think of something else, call us, 617-782-2300, extension 216. There's the email address. If there's anything else you can think of. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Bye.